This year, the Erie Canal turns 200 years old. A place called Canastota owes much of its early growth to it. It's pretty much the definition of what they call a canal town. However, even though the canal was central to its development, its story goes well beyond a waterway. Rooted in agriculture and community spirit, I'm going to tell you the story of a place that they used to call Onion Town. The Canastota region was formed during what's called the last deglaciation, a process where a huge glacier melted away and left behind rich soils and valleys that we see today. The fertile land was eventually inhabited by the Oneida people, who were members of a great alliance of tribes known as the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. They thrived long before Europeans arrived, building villages and farming the rich soils. They called the area of Canastota Canastota, which means cluster of pines near still waters. In the early 1800s, Canastota was mostly swampland and forest, with just a small cleared section on the western side. Captain Reuben Perkins, a Revolutionary War veteran, came to the region along an early frontier road called the Seneca Turnpike, now Route 5. He purchased land from the Oneidas, for which he obtained a patent from the state, and a village began to form. By this point, the larger town of Lenox was established, and people were coming. Perkins would end up selling off his land, and it wasn't long before construction of the Erie Canal began over in nearby Rome. Nathan Roberts, a key engineer on the canal, moved to Canastota and ended up staying. He would go on to do great things, like designing the Flight of 5 lock system over in Lockport. But before all of that, Canastota was just a small cluster of homes along the planned canal route. An influx of workers on the project created a demand for taverns, shops, and general stores here. The channel through the village was completed by 1820, and the entire Erie Canal was open for business in October of 1825. It was a 363-mile-long artificial waterway across upstate New York, and it was kind of like the I-90 of its day. It spurred the creation of blacksmith shops, brickyards, sawmills, feed stores, and more in Canastota. It also provided farmers and factories with an inexpensive way to ship goods to markets far and wide. Needless to say, the village was growing quickly. A post office opened in 1829, and by 1831, the village had a population of about 400 people. Then it was incorporated, and in 1839, the railroad arrived, connecting Syracuse and Utica. There was some abolitionist activity here, and by the time the Civil War ended, the Erie Canal had been enlarged, and a newspaper was established, the Canastota Bee. A second rail line for the village was completed in 1870, connecting to Cazenovia, and by the 1880s, the village boasted connections to multiple lines on top of having a canal. There were schools, churches, opera houses, and other public institutions forming. Many Italian immigrant families were coming here, looking to farm the rich soil. Unfortunately, the village faced multiple fires, including a major one in 1873 that burned down a bunch of stuff. With all the tragedies, progress still emerged. The Watson Wagon Company, which moved to the village in 1893, became world-renowned for its dumping wagons. Thousands of these things were used in France and other places during World War I. The village also provided the setting for an early motion picture machine known as the biograph, invented by Herman Kassler. A small public library opened in 1896, and not long after that, Harry Weed invented the tire chain here. The Ideal Cut Glass Company came in 1905, and for 28 years it would produce prized glassware patterns. The village also saw the growth of other industries, and things were just humming. People could stay at the Weaver Hotel, and a lift bridge was constructed over the canal. However, the Barge Canal, an upgraded version of the Erie, was about to change things. With the new project, the original route through Canastota shifted its course outside of the village, and the initial segment was abandoned in the 1920s. That was when a new high school opened, and then a state-of-the-art airport dedicated by none other than Amelia Earhart. This is also a time when Canastota's mucklins were thriving, and the village became known as the onion capital of the world. Farmers from all over the region came to grow onions and more in these fertile lands. Around that time, my ancestors, Olney and Floyd, operated a canning factory here, and I don't have much information about it, but it's really cool to know that I have direct family ties to this place. Anyway, in 1954, the New York State Thruway was opened near the village. Then, Canastota native Carmen Basilio became a world boxing champion. Fast forward to the 80s, when the village opened the International Boxing Hall of Fame to honor the careers of champions such as Basilio and his nephew Billy Backus. In the years that followed, the village continued to adapt and thrive, carrying its story forward. Last year, a tornado touched down, causing one fatality and significant damage. People quickly organized to provide aid, demonstrating its strong sense of community. Today, Canastota remains a nice little village of about 4,500 people, situated between Syracuse and Utica. You can learn more about its history by visiting the Canaltown Museum, and also check out the towpath and channel of the original Erie Canal, which are both preserved. Have a good one.